10:32 p.m. Chase began to think they were walking backward instead of forward, or else that the GPS was wrong. How could it take over 2 hours to walk less than half a mile? At this rate, we won't get to the farm until sunrise, if at all. The wind and rain were dissolving the road as if it were a sand castle. Twice they'd had to wade around a gap in the waist-deep water. The last time, all three of them had nearly been swept out into the lake by the current rushing through the opening. The ponchos and the blanket he was wearing were little help in this weather. Wetsuits would have been better. I'll have to suggest that to Dad, if I ever get to see him again, he thought. And we need more batteries in the go bag, too. He stopped to let everyone catch their breath and change the batteries in the headlamps, which were getting too dim to see. This is the last of the batteries. We're dead without light. We'll have to use one headlamp at a time. Whoever's wearing it will have to take the lead and call out problems to the two in the back. Whoever meant Chase or Nicole. Rashawn was doing a lot better than he expected, but every 30 minutes, like clockwork, she froze and burst into tears. The fits didn't last long, and she was perfectly fine when they were over, but he couldn't risk having her lead them up the dark road. Nicole took the first lead, and it went smoothly for the first 10 minutes, discounting the wind, the stinging rain, and Chase's throbbing front tooth, which the pain pills had done nothing to help. Chase was a step behind Rashawn, holding onto her arm. Rashawn was a step behind Nicole, holding onto her arm. They'd tried hooking arms and walking three abreast, but when the crosswind gusted, it blew them into one another and their legs got tangled. The chain formation seemed to be working. When the wind picked up one of them off the road, which happened every few minutes, they would drop to their knees and huddle until it was safe to move again. Huddle, hold, walk. Huddle, hold, walk. Stop! Nicole shouted. They huddled. Chase switched on his headlamp, expecting to see another breach in the road, but the road looked fine, except for the large log up ahead. We'll have to be careful, he said, but we can get across that log. Rashawn and Nicole laughed. What's so funny? That ain't no log, Rashawn said. That's a gator. Chase stared ahead in horror. That's not a gator, that's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I thought you said the gators were riding out the storm underwater, Nicole said. Not this one. I bet he's 13 feet if he's an inch. Probably 50 or 60 years old. My daddy would flip if he was here. Chase wished her daddy was there to tell them what to do. The only way they could move forward was to scare it off the road or step over it. I'm surprised he hasn't moved with the headlamp on him, Nicole said. We must look like aliens to him. More like poachers, Rashawn said, which makes it even stranger he didn't bolt into the water as soon as he saw your light. They hunt them at night with spotlights. At his age and size, I bet he has a hole or two in him from the poachers. Chase looked at Nicole. Any ideas? I guess we move closer and see what the gator does. 11:02 p.m. News report. As you can see, Richard, Emily has bypassed St. Pete. All we have here is a bit of rain and some wind as the outer edge is skirting past us, heading north. It made landfall at 7 p.m. in Palm Breeze, where I live. Richard said, I hope your family is safe, Richard. I hope so, too. The last time I spoke to them, which was just after my wife got home from school, she's a principal, you know, everything was fine. An hour later, I called back, and the cell and landlines were completely dead. I guess what I don't understand, and I'm sure our viewers are wondering the same thing, is how the forecasters can be so wrong. Emily's landed 50 miles north of here. But what's even more surprising is that she made landfall 4 hours early, stranding tens of thousands of people trying to get home or leave the area. Those are some pretty big questions. I hardly know where to begin. Everything we know about hurricanes is based on previous data. Emily is an anomaly. This afternoon, she was moving faster than any other hurricane on record. No one could have predicted that she would actually pick up speed as the afternoon progressed. Because of her speed and her direction changes, forecasters were simply unable to predict where she would make landfall. As to the thousands of people stranded, I don't think it's that many, but there are certainly people who have gotten caught by the storm. As you mentioned, Richard, we have a complete communications blackout with the exception of satellite phones. Here's what we think is going on, and please remember that none of this information can be verified until communications have been restored. All roads in and out of Palm Breeze have been closed due to flooding, wind damage, or car accidents. Because of the severe weather, all non-essential emergency personnel have been sent home until such time that the weather allows them to return. There have been 17 reported fatalities, and I want to emphasize that these are reported, not verified. 5 people have died in automobile accidents, 2 people had heart attacks, and 3 people have drowned. The rest were reported killed by flying debris and in building collapses. Law enforcement and emergency workers have set up dozens of temporary shelters in schools and other government buildings. Those stranded in their cars have been moved into the shelters to wait out the storm. There is no doubt that the area has received a great deal of damage, and there will be more to come. I don't want to speculate any further. Do we have news crews headed up there? No, Richard. As I said, no one is being allowed in or out, including local and national news media. We've tried, but we were turned back. Officials will reevaluate the situation in the morning and let us know when we'll be allowed in. As a resident with a family there, they would certainly allow me through. They are turning all residents away, Richard. The problem is the roads. They aren't passable, and with Emily in full swing, it's simply too dangerous. Thank you, Cindy. Right now, we need to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more about the storm of the century.